Greetings and welcome to another episode of RTAF Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Norris, and thank you for being here as always. My guest this week is Hannah Webb. Hannah is a painter living in LA. You probably know her better as the Obanoth. That's right, the Obanoth is the correct pronunciation of that. A lot of people think it's Theo Banoth or the Bannister or some shit like that, but no. It's the Obanoth. Be sure to follow her. Check out her website where you can see her awesome paintings of concise design, precise color and value matching, and flatness of paint. Very cool style she has. We get into that a little bit. Talk about some nerdy things about an hour into this episode. Of course, we go into Hannah's backstory, some struggles that she's faced as an artist, and a lot more. I think you'll enjoy this episode. Great conversation, lots of information. Thank you, Hannah, once again for joining me in this epic episode. And this week, my newest patron on patreon.com/RTAF podcast is Andrew Meyer. Big shouts to you, sir. Thank you for supporting the podcast. You can find Andrew at MC Mick Fun Guy, PHUNGUY. If you, my dear listener, would like to support this podcast on Patreon, head on over, as I said before, to patreon.com/RTAF podcast. You'll find 3 tiers there, one for $4, one for $8, one for $16. You get exclusive video, a shout out, guest suggestions, and merch. If you like what I'm doing, please consider it. It's only $48 a year. If you care. I don't know if you guys are David Cross fans, but that's in reference to one of his bits. If you care. But yeah, I appreciate all the support that I've gotten so far from my 19 patrons. You guys are crushing it. You're helping me chug along, keep my head up, feel good about it, and I love y'all. And I love you, even if you don't support. Guess what? Just by listening to this podcast, you're helping me out. If you want to go a little bit beyond that, but not quite to the Patreon, you can rate, review, subscribe, leave 5 stars on iTunes, all those good little things. Share it with your friends, and, smash that like button or whatever. Anyway, that's another topic on this episode. We talk about social media, of course. How could we not? Let's just get into this. I'm tired. I'm tired of rambling, tired of babbling. Here is Hannah Webb, aka the Obanoth. Just to let you know there, my robot assistant.
Thank you.
Well, sweet. Thanks for taking the time. Sorry about that little snafu that we just had with some technical difficulties there.
Nah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what you get for doing things with the internet in general.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it'll make for a good interview, because that's kind of like our introduction was trying to troubleshoot this video problem that we're having.
Yeah, it seems to be working now. I think we got it.
Did that break the ice a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. Cool. Well, Hannah Webb, also known as the Obanoth. Did I nail that? You
did.
Hell yeah. But yeah, thanks for coming on RTAF, and I appreciate you being here. And really stoked to talk to you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Do you listen to a lot of podcasts?
Here and there. I listen to a couple different kind of art-centric ones and a couple other nonsense-centric ones. But I'm more of a book on tape audio book person when I'm working on stuff. But yeah, I'm in and out of the podcast game.
Nice. Which art podcast do you listen to? I just want to see if we listen to the same ones,
Yeah. Well, a friend of mine produces one called Clean Break.
Yep. I found out about that one after I started this. I was like, oh yeah, I bet there are other art podcasts out there. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, the host of that one is a friend of mine. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of podcasts new this year all of a sudden, and I think a lot of it has to do with like quarantine and people starting stuff up. So
Yeah.
I think, recently if either a friend of mine or an artist I like shares that they have an episode on something out, then I try to check it out and kind of bounce around between stuff. But yeah.
Nice. Well, yeah. So usually how I start out is I just give people's background, their story. So like as a prompt, when was the like very earliest that you remember starting to make art?
Oh man. I mean, I was kind of a shy kid for the younger part of my childhood. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just always kind of was drawing and making stuff, and I was into like modeling clay and stuff, so I would like make little characters and objects and whatever. So, yeah, it's just kind of always been around me. My father is an architect, so, having like paper and markers and stuff around is just kind of standard. So, yeah, it's just kind of always been part of my life, just kind of doing creative things and kind of quiet creative activities was just sort of part of my thing for a long time. So,
Nice.
yeah, I've been at it more professionally for, some years now, but yeah, it's something that's kind of just always been, in my universe.
Nice. What made you want to pursue art like as a career, as a professional? Was there anything in particular? Or is just something that you were comfortable with? You like found yourself in a groove and it was just the next logical step? Or was it?
I mean, I think I was doing the thing that a lot of people do or teenagers do, where you're trying to figure out, with all the go to college pressure, like try to figure out what is your niche, like what is it that you want to be doing,
Right.
And I was like, I don't know. I mean, geez, I like writing. Do I want to do that? And I used to like play instruments, so I was like, is that something? So this whole time, of course, I'm like painting, like, man, I don't know what to do with my life. So
Totally.
I think eventually it was just like, well, wait, like, why don't I should try to like find something to do with that. I think that when you're younger, you get less encouragement to go to art school. Like art school seems kind of like the defiant act when people are trying to pressure you to go to just school in general. So,
right.
I don't think it was at the top of my mind for a long time, but when it started to feel more serious, then I thought, I don't know, maybe I'll go towards animation. Animation, something I wanted to do just because I loved watching animation and kind of the concept of, sort of igniting the drawing and deciding how it moves through space. I thought was cool.
Yeah.
I thought I wanted to do graphic design also, because I had like a copy of Photoshop Elements in 2004. And so,
Nice.
I don't know. I liked smashing images around. I like photoshopped a picture of my pet hamster in a big armchair. And I was like, this is awesome. I'm going to be a designer.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I think that, when I decided that I wanted to do something art related or kind of committed myself to that, then was sort of the next step challenge of like, well, what, because there's like 1,000 things you can do within that. So
yeah,
I thought graphic design, and then I actually went to art school and started as an animation major, and then decided that animation is too tedious for me. It's just not for me. So I switched to illustration, and now I'm a painter.
Nice. So art school, was it overall, would you say it's like a good thing that you went to art school?
For me, it was definitely. I am from a pretty small town in the Midwest, and I had no idea the scope of the things that I did not know, know? So even though my work has changed a lot since I have left school, I wasn't painting with acrylic. That's my whole thing now,
Yeah.
So like my work and my trajectory has really evolved on the other side of school. But what art school did show me was the absolute breadth of options and styles and people and medium and community, and stuff that I don't think that I would have like landed in the middle of in any other way. I think that was kind of the driver for like contextualizing this world, was kind of being around these people and trying stuff and having the opportunity to go, oh, cool, I want to be an animator, and then animating something and then going, oh, now I can make an educated decision that I want to shift over here, And so for me, the structure was really was important. I think that it had a lot to do with where I ended up, but
nice.
It's maybe not true for everybody. I know that the art school thing can be divisive, but
sure, yeah. I didn't go to art school. I'm also a painter, and also came from kind of I guess it's more like mid-sized Midwest town. It's like a college town in Kentucky, and I still feel like the art world is like opening up to me. Like I'm still like, oh wow, that's a thing you can do. With this whole thing. So, I went to like University of Kentucky and got a psych degree because I was just like,
okay,
I guess I'll do this, see what happens. And nothing happened. I was just still trying to be creative and had all these dreams,
Right. Yeah. Those damn dreams, getting in the way of your psych future.
Yeah.
Well, so, okay. If you went to school in Kentucky, then you probably are aware of my hometown, which is Miami University in Ohio.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm from. I'm from Oxford. It's a really small town, southwestern Ohio. So, it's great. But, I went to school in California and was kind of like dropped into a whole, way more diverse community of people and things and processes. And I got to meet a lot of professional artists that were doing things that I didn't even know that you could do,
Right. Right.
So it was a big paradigm shift for me.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that happened to me a little later. I decided that I wanted to be an artist at like 26, and then about a year and a half later moved out to Denver out here in Colorado. Okay. And definitely not as what would you say, bubbly as LA. There's not like as much going on, and I wasn't formally schooled, but there's that. Did you have that kind of like, I guess you could call it, I mean, it's the same culture, but culture shock moving to LA from Oxford, Ohio?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I moved to Orange County. The school I went to was in Orange County. And that was, a million years different. Just, I mean, totally upside down. I kind of felt like I was like a teenager. So I think that you get the impression that you're like, I got this. I'm prepared. I think I kind of know what to expect.
Yeah.
Way off. You don't realize how small of a fish you are until you're in that big of a pond or whatever. But it was a big kind of like, holy crap, change for me. So
was that the kind of motivation to move out there? Because I remember, I again finished college or whatever there, but like I remember thinking like just the complete and utter like averageness of that I felt like being in my town was kind of like suffocating. Like I felt like one day I'd wake up and be married to someone and have kids and a white picket fence and not know what to do with it or something. Was that part of the motivation for you? Or
I mean, a lot of people are very happy with that option.
No hate on them, no shade on them, but
no, yeah. I mean, yes, I wanted to leave my hometown, and I only applied to art schools in two places, two in California and two in New York City. So it was college, no matter what I ended up doing, was going to be my opportunity to leave, and kind of pave my own way. So yeah, I mean, it definitely was a way for me to accomplish that. I mean, I think that when you're older, in your 20s, whatever, it's harder to make a move because you got to think about things more like your job, like career job, not your I'm 18 job, but your,
right.
I'm a full straight up adult job. And, you've made more connections where you are, you've built more adult relationships, I mean, it's harder to pick up and move when you're older than at that moment for me. So,
yeah,
I did that. I moved in my 20s to LA by myself,
nice.
from Orange County. But yeah, I mean, I quit my job. I had to, do, cause I've had a day job, and still do actually. But yeah, it was, it was the thing that moved me across the country was school. And I picked a spot where I thought that there was an opportunity to do something with visual art, even though I, hadn't totally figured out where I was going to land, and probably would not have guessed that I would land where I am or with what I'm doing now. But
yeah.
yeah, it was an opportunity to like slingshot me, really far away from the way I was feeling and the place I was, and all of that. It was an opportunity to kind of go all the way off the deep end.
Nice. Yeah, that's sweet. So you're out in Orange County. I almost said where. So it was called Laguna Beach Art School.
Yeah.
Okay.
Laguna College of Art and Design.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's very small.
And so what was your work like when you were in college or when you were in school?
Oh man, bad. I think another one of those big art school transitions is going from being like, oh, I am the most artistic one in my friend group.
Yeah.
I am the most artistic one in my family. And then, and you're feeling like, oh, I kind of got this. And then you meet all of the other people that were that in their own circles, and you go, oh, shit, I suck.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, honestly, all throughout school, my work was just kind of weak. I think I was cutting corners a lot. I was trying to be, I don't know, I was trying to be lowbrow and kind of be quirky and whatever. And I just, I was just not really creating any successful work. And I say this, objectively, this isn't just me trying to be hard on myself or something, but truly, I was not at the top of my class graduating from art school. I mean, I held it together okay, and I feel like I learned a fair amount, but it was college, it was art school, we were doing funky stuff and partying and whatever. And, and you're exploring, and exploring is great because that landed me where I am. But, I wasn't like really honed in to anything in particular. My college thesis project was a series of oil paintings and a series of watercolor paintings that were all like really kind of absurdist and, and kind of silly and bizarre and whatever. And I just kind of leaned on that, like, I do quirky art, I do funny, whatever. And it really just had no specific substance to it. So I realized after graduating, like real world, get a job, support yourself life fully kind of thing. I realized like, I'm not a very good painter. Like, I'm cheating a lot. I'm smushing things together, and I'm really just trying to ride this, like, maybe the image doesn't look good, but like, oh, aren't I clever? And ultimately it was just like not, I don't know. I just kind of learned that like, that wasn't enough. I didn't really feel that good about that work. And I don't know. It maybe was coming from more of a place of ego than I wanted it to. And I don't know. So since then I graduated and then decided like, I need to learn how to paint better. And I think a lot of the development of my style and my kind of current work and body of work and whatever. It was sort of based on me going like, okay, like this has been fun. It was great. I don't regret a moment of it, but, man, like if I had taken those classes at a time when I was maybe a little bit more open to receiving the information, or something like it, I've heard friends of mine say this too, but like, if I took some of those classes I took in college now,
Right.
I would have paid way more attention, man. Like I would really, like, I was learning from really cool people and I was really not nearly as invested in these courses as I could have been, should have been, whatever. So yeah, I kind of just decided like, it's funny to graduate from art school and then to decide to learn how to paint, but that's kind of where I felt like I was. So I shifted and tried to start figuring out acrylic and yada, yada, yada. Here we are.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to be that conscientious when you're that young. I mean, some people are, I guess. Is that a personality trait that you would like pin to yourself, or did you have to kind of like learn discipline over the years? And
somewhere in between. I'm pretty type A. Like I'm super organized. I like my calendar and my schedule books and everything are really important to me. I've always been like that, I'm kind of a workaholic type, whatever. But I think I don't know. I think I was trying something for a while there, and I still like to think that I am, I don't know, quirky and fun and whatever, but I don't think that you need to like present yourself as much, I mean, it's like having bumper stickers on your car. It's like you can have these personality traits without screaming them at people,
right.
And I think that when you're younger, when you're a teenager, the inclination is to like, well, how is somebody going to know that I am X, Y, and Z if I don't put it on my t-shirt, or if I don't have this on my whatever, or get this tattooed on my face, or, so like, I think that as I've gotten older, it's been like, okay, well, I can still have these traits in my personality and whatever, but like, maybe that doesn't need to be the first read of me, like maybe I don't need to try to tell people that I'm a certain way from a distance, especially at the cost of like not really producing very good work.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'm sure as like this is, I guess from my own personal experience, like as I get older, those things can kind of shine through in a more subtle way in just the way that you handle yourself, the way that you do X, Y, or Z. You don't have to be like making it so graphic or literal, right?
Right.
We all become a little more subtle as we grow older, hopefully, if you're doing things right, I guess.
Yeah, it'll be there naturally, so instead of like, okay, well, I'm going to sit down and make something. Now I don't have to go, but how can I make it weird? How can I make it crazy? How can I tell everybody that I'm different when I make this, So it's, I don't know. I think, those things will happen as a result of having thoughtful ideas and having a successfully executed body of work, which takes a lot of time. But, it does it have to be the first thing that I think of every time I try to make something, and like, what am I trying to prove anymore?
Totally. So I wanted to ask you about this other job that you have. Mm-hmm. That's very interesting to me. To me, from my perspective, you look like a successful artist just making art. And I'll pull up your paintings here in a minute. We'll do a screen share. I've got your website pulled up and whatever. But and they are a little bit smaller, I think, than I don't know, at least some people that I know. So you can maybe bust them out quicker. And I've seen your process videos and everything. But I wanted to talk to you about time management and habits that you've found over the years that help you stay focused enough to have this kind of, I don't know, dual life. You said, you didn't tell me. What is your job, first of all?
Yeah. I am the director of admissions at a college
Oh, wow.
that specializes in things like video game design.
Oh, cool. So it's kind of like parallel-ish, right?
Ish.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it is. It lets me exercise a different part of my brain, and I really do like um I mean, I think that there's a lot that I really actually do like about having kind of the 9 to 6 job thing. I have done it forever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's a nice balance for me. I get to talk to students about their artwork, but it's generally kind of a different medium, different process, kind of a different universe than what I do, which is nice. I think that being surrounded by only people that produce work in your medium or your style or your whatever, is not, it's not probably good just to be in an echo chamber for one, but also, I mean, there is a lot of really cool work being produced that is, maybe more specific to a different industry than me. And I think it's good or interesting just to be aware of it. I like writing. I like, there's a lot of stuff that I get to do by having the job. But yeah, I also produce a crazy amount of artwork. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse, by the way. Am I allowed to curse?
You can say whatever the fuck you want.
Okay, cool. I produce a fuck ton of paintings, and that is something that I have also done a lot. But people usually seem to know me as either role and rarely both. So you would either know me because I am a school representative or the big scary admissions person that's going to let you into college or not, or you know me as this person that paints every day and shares paintings on the internet. But very rarely do people know both.
Yeah. You're kind of like you're kind of blowing up your spot. I mean, this podcast isn't that big, but you never know.
I know. Well, I mean, it's not exactly a secret per se, but I don't really go out of my way to tell people about the other life, I'm not going to go on my Instagram where I'm posting all my paintings and talk about my day job. And I'm also not going to go to work, and be like, hey everybody, like,
check out my work.
Check out my, follow me on Instagram, kid. So, I mean, they just don't. It's funny how little they overlap, honestly. Yeah. Very rarely do people kind of know both things. And usually people that know one are surprised to hear about the other. So if you know me primarily as a painter, those people are usually surprised that I work 40 hours a week.
Very surprised.
Yeah, and vice versa. So so time management.
Tell me about
it. You really got to manage it, man, when you got 2 full-time jobs. So I think that one of the big things for me is that I really like painting. So like, when I get off work at the end of the day and I've been talking to art students and writing emails and doing whatever I do in my day job all day, I want to paint. I like painting, I like, that's actually kind of what I do to relax. I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't know. I like, that's actually just kind of where I go naturally to unwind or whatever. And so I think that, that I have made a point to paint for myself a lot, even when I have like commissions lined up and projects, client work, things that I have to do for people. I still make a point to just like paint for fun, paint for myself in the middle of it, because that's the only way, man. If all of my painting projects were just something I had to slog through, I don't know. I would not want to do it because it would feel like work all the time. Yeah. So even though my day job, I start at 9, I'm over at 6. I like to cook. So I'll cook dinner, whatever, do whatever. And then kind of return to my same studio space in the evenings and paint until 10 o'clock at night. While that on paper is like a 13-hour work day or whatever, minus a couple food breaks. Mm-hmm. It actually doesn't really feel that way to me most of the time. if I have a lot of big deadlines coming up for one thing or the other, then it does feel like I'm being crushed by it a little bit. And I actually will be leaving my day job this year at the end of this year.
Okay. Yeah.
You know,
I was going to ask, like, how long do you think that's going to last? Because
3 more months is how long it's going to last.
Yeah.
No, I've always said that I'll do both as long as I can happily do both. But at this point, I have a lot of art projects that I don't have time for anymore. And so, yeah, I think I'm going to probably eventually put all my eggs in one basket. But yeah, I mean, honestly, the best thing that I can do for time, or that I could recommend to others for time, is to like make sure that you are putting yourself in a position where you enjoy the art stuff or whatever it is, you know, music stuff, whatever that other thing is for you. Make sure that you like want to go do that. Meaning you have it set up somewhere that you like to be. You're not in a musty basement or with a shitty wooden chair or something that, you know, like you don't want to be like, ugh, I gotta X, Y, and Z, because you won't. You just won't do that, you know? So yeah, I mean, my thing is that like my studio space, I have good speakers, I have my laptop, I have my chair, I like my zone here. So for me, I like kind of retreating to this space, and I have rules set with myself where, you know, if I feel like I need to be producing stuff, I need to work on something, whatever, I allow myself to only work on it for an hour and go and do something else. I don't have to work for 5 hours every time I sit down to paint. I can do it for 20 minutes and then go, all right now, and then leave. That's okay. You know,
totally.
So for me, it's just about like, you know, obviously you have to manage your time, because, you know, if you only spend time on whatever your creative project is, if you only spend 1 day a week, then you're spending 50 days a year. And if you know, so, I mean, you gotta, like, if you put out one painting every 6 months, that means that you'll be 40 by the time you put out, you know, like, I mean, it's just, it's, you have to keep in mind that like days pass fast and you need to carve out time to do this thing. Cause you blink and it's been months and you've only worked twice, you know, I mean, and that's a big chunk of your time in your life. So, but yeah, for me, it's like low pressure, you know, go work on stuff because you feel like it. I like getting up on a Sunday morning and making coffee and putting music on and painting for a couple hours in the morning. I like doing that. So that's kind of what keeps me doing both, you know, is that I feel like I am not, even though I'm really busy with the art thing and I do find myself hyperextended a lot, I don't have to convince myself like a homework assignment to paint every time.
Absolutely. Yeah, that keeps it fresh, right? And that is so important. And I'm glad that was your answer. That's something that I've sort of learned in the past couple years, that like you definitely don't want to turn it into a task. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so to keep it not a task, I guess, is, you know, we're wired to have like reward centers, and like, if you can train yourself to sit down and do focused work, right? Like, even if it's just an hour, even if it's, 30 minutes, and then you reward yourself with a little break and maybe a little food or, some mindless Instagram scrolling, then it keeps you like hungry for more, right? Do you think the job kind of did that? Do you think maybe not consciously, but like in a way it was sort of this polar opposite thing, maybe not totally polar opposite, but opposite thing that like you went and did, and then it kept you like ready to go when you got home?
Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah, I think that having something structured is good, because I feel generally accomplished or satisfied at 6 o'clock every day. I kind of feel like I did something, so I don't maybe feel as much pressure to successfully complete a painting or do whatever, I kind of already get that fulfillment feeling. So maybe that gives me the space to be creative with less pressure. I'm not sure, but I just, it is honestly as simple as, it can just be a fidget for me. Like if I'm going to sit down and watch TV or something, if I'm going to put a movie on, I'm going to be, what am I doing? Like looking at my phone probably, right? Like if you put on something crappy, you're just going to be scrolling through your phone.
Right.
So why not watch the thing on my laptop? And while I fidget with something, I'm going to paint something on my desk, I'm just going to sit here. So I've just made it easy for myself to kind of check off multiple boxes at a time like that. It's like I can curl up in a comfy chair and watch my show and paint something, so it's like, okay, well, I can do all of those things and I already finished my whole work day. So I feel like I am able to, to do this without that crushing pressure of like, you must, and then this is due and whatever. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think it's probably like psychological. I think you just have to trick yourself a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. But our minds are like little puppies and you got to like train them and yeah, like you said, even trick them.
Mm-hmm.
So what so far has been like your biggest struggle with art, or do you struggle?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I think that one of the things that is true forever is that whatever you produce, and I again think this is true for stuff other than just visual art, but whatever you produce, the things that you made like 2 years ago, you might hate. Like I hate like most of the work I produced like a year and a half ago and
really?
Before that. Like, well, there's a handful of pieces that I think hold up, but a lot of them I look back and I'm just like, oh, ugh. So I think it's good because it means that your new work must be better if your old work disappoints you, right? But I think it's hard to it's hard to judge your own work and to kind of decide your feelings about your own content and production and feeling like you are happy with what you're creating or the volume that you're creating or whatever. I think it's a struggle is just sort of that general self-criticism.
Mm-hmm.
But I just try to ignore it. I think that what a lot of people get hung up on is the social media aspect of it. And
mm-hmm.
I have taught myself to stop giving a shit about that.
Fuck yeah.
Because I think that's another one that really messes people up.
Definitely.
I think that Instagram is really problematic, for example, just because it makes people think that if they didn't get likes on a piece, that it's a bad piece, and that's not at all correct.
Right.
So yeah, I think, that forever need to be better and make something that's next, what's the next thing, because I paint a fair number of the same subjects, but how many times can I paint a bird, damn it? Before am I going to get sick of it? Or is everyone else do I care if everyone else is sick of it? So there's this kind of weird, need to continuously have ideas and looking back in time and wondering if your previous ideas were any good or if your work was any good. It's hard to figure out where you stand in the great line of your movement through your art career. So so I think that's hard, and also for me, it's also a balance thing because I am also I produce product stuff. So I make sketchbooks and patches and enamel pins that I release. I do commissions for people. I try to do my own work. I do art shows, group shows stuff. So, trying to figure out what am I doing? What are my goalposts right now? Where are my ideas? Where's my skill set? Where's my body of work headed? What am I doing? What am I aiming for? Am I doing it? Is this, the work I did before was not super good. Is this what so there is kind of that forever, like, what am I,
Yeah.
what am I doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
a lot
should
to
I be
unpack.
aiming at something?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, first, what I would say to that is like, I guess the goalposts always move, right? And
Yeah.
that's what I think keeps it interesting for me is like, I'm kind of constantly trying to be better and more accurate and do something different. And, I vary in my success with that. But that's the beautiful thing about art, I think, is that, some people will get into a groove and just hang out there for the rest of their lives. And that's cool too.
Mhm.
If the artist themselves is okay with that, within themselves, right? Like, and also about social media. I mean, geez, like, talk about that all day. That was actually one of my prompts for a little later, but let's just get right into it. Yeah, you can't compare yourself to others. You can only compare, you can, I mean, and people do, but you can really only compare yourself to who you were, like you said, like a year ago. And if you're seeing improvement and you're seeing numbers go up and people respond more passionately or engage more regularly, you've got to count that as a win. But I find it like maybe just a little ironic that, it is problematic, but I mean, from my point of view and probably from a lot of people's point of view who listen to this, you're absolutely killing it on social media. You have what, a 250,000 followers? Hang on. But yeah, so one of my questions was, what advice would you give to someone on just how to cultivate a fan base like that?
Yeah. Well, so you have to be genuine. And here's
Sure.
At a glance today, yes, I have a lot of Instagram followers, and that's wonderful. Okay. But I have been painting every day for like, I don't know, 15 years now and sharing. And it's not until the past couple of years that people have been like following and engaging with me. Yeah. So I would like to say that I had not very many followers, and I was still producing a metric fuck ton of artwork and sharing it to nobody. Okay. I was sharing it to zero people. If you scroll back in time on my page, you'll see the numbers of engaged people go down pretty fast because I truly did not have that many followers. But the way that I got there was to not freak out about that. Who am I working for? Who right. are these people anyway? Like,
right. That's a good point. Yeah. You're not working for Instagram, right? But like, I think a lot of people fall into that trap where they end up working for Instagram, more or less.
Yeah. Well, anyway. And the thing that doesn't work about that is that Instagram is not an unbiased show your work to a bunch of people and then they decide if your work is good. Instagram is based off of timing and the things that you interact. It's like this algorithm thing does not fairly show everybody your work. And, so it's not like if you post something and it doesn't get a lot of likes, that doesn't mean that the work isn't good. That just means that the Instagram stupid fucking algorithm that everyone's obsessed with didn't catch it, didn't see it, didn't show it to the right person. It didn't catch you. You posted it at the wrong time of day. You posted it when everybody was eating dinner. You posted it whatever, like you posted on a holiday weekend. Shouldn't have done that. It's just like, but it's a terrible reflection of how successful somebody's art is. And a lot of artist people that are really successful don't have a lot of internet thumbs ups all the time. Totally. And it's not actually the same thing.
Right.
But my advice for growing a following is to be genuine and be productive and to honestly give fewer shits. Because
yeah.
used to post, even if you go back in time and read my captions, I'm like, hey guys, I'm just really excited to share with you. I started this bit and here's, oh, hey everybody, what do you want to see? And it's this weird, like you're standing on this podium making an announcement to like nobody. And like you end up frustrated when you do this because you're advertising yourself at people that aren't shopping. Like, like what is it that you want? And why are you looking for it in this weird algorithm machine that may or may not connect you with people that absolutely would love your work? It's
Right.
just not a good system for it. So
Totally.
I think that, people confuse this concept where like, if you are internet popular, then art is good. And if no follower, art bad. And that is deeply inaccurate.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you truly want more people to follow you, what you need to provide them is a window into your creativity. So my Instagram is a place where I just drop the stuff that I'm working on, and people can like it or people can not like it, but I'm not hunting people down. I'm not begging people to follow me. I'm not like trying to satisfy strangers by producing stuff that they want. I don't know what they want. The internet's fickle anyway. What's the point?
Yeah.
I just walked back.
Dope. That's great advice. I mean, it goes hand in hand with saying like what you were saying earlier about just making it enjoyable and making it something you love, And
people will follow along if you seem to care about the work that you make, not that you care that they care,
right.
not me desperate for you to care, but me caring about my own stuff and doing that and just existing as that. People generally are interested in that,
Yeah. It's the worst, like the behavior that it tends to cultivate sometimes. Like it's, those cringy things where someone will comment on your post and be like, yo, share it on this art page. And like, by the way, what are all these art pages that are just sharing like pretty random work doing with like 1 million followers? Like, do you know what I'm talking about? Are they all bots?
Followers. They're fake. Yeah, they're fake.
Yeah. Okay.
Also,
That's
those
so
people
annoying.
collect money. There's this whole bot thing happening on Instagram where I get 1,000 comments that are like, share it on Art World
DM
5,
us.
That's for pricing. If you do that, they'll be like, yeah, well, we'll share your work. We have 2 million followers. You just have to send us $15. And that sounds like, oh my God, you're going to show my work to 2 million people for $15. What a deal. It's not. It's
not actually people, by the way.
And even if it were, man, how often do you see something advertised at you that you like click and want and were looking for, that you were prepared for, that you decided to then follow somebody who's like, hey guys, let me know what you think. You're not following accounts like that. Like, don't be that account.
Yeah. I actually shamefully about 6 years ago fell for one of those things and like paid them $10 to share something of mine, and like I probably got a lot of fake account followers that way, but it creates this whole illusion of, like you were saying, like if you have a lot of followers you must be successful and your art must be good and people must really love it, and you must be selling stuff out the wazoo, and it's like it's not necessarily true. And it's I don't know. It just, again, it creates all this like cringy behavior, and people like DM you and be like, hey, follow me. Like, I'm like, I don't know you. And it's fine to like be on the hustle, but like, are you an artist or are you a hustler / marketeer?
Well, and there's a really big gap between networking and begging for attention.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Like trying to get to know artists who you admire, for example, because you're curious about their path or their practice, or, you know, maybe advice from them, you know, that I get emails, like typed actual literal emails from people that are like, hey, I am blah, 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 this painter, here are some struggles I'm having. Do you have any advice on whatever? And I'm happy to engage with those people.
Sure.
Follow me, go like all of my posts. Hey, I liked your post. Will you like my post? People that comment publicly that are like, hey, everyone, like talking to people looking at my art, advertising themselves on my work is irritating. But it's like, hey, everyone, I am a 16-year-old artist and I love acrylic. Come follow my journey. And it's like, man, just because like for what? But like what is it that you want? Because most of these people aren't selling something. This isn't about money. This is about feel good points.
Yeah, it's status, right? It's this,
and it's fake. It's not real. It's not real.
It's not actually. It's not even actual status. It's like generated probably in part by Instagram and in part by other people who are making money off of selling accounts.
Yep. Yeah, I am always happy to share what I know or what I've figured out. I mean, obviously I'm just a person. I'm not an expert in a lot of this stuff, but I have made a lot of mistakes and I've had some successes. I've had some things not work. And if people want to actually engage with me and talk about, you know, pursuing this or, you know, whatever, like I'm happy to answer actual questions, but I'm not happy to just, you know, shower you with attention or, hey, will you share my work in your feed, please? And they have 2 paintings on their profile. I'm like, well, you're not like, you're asking for attention, but you're not earning it. You know, like if you want people to care about your work, then you need to go make it. I don't know what you want me to do for you. You're not making anything. So yeah, the social media thing is forever an issue. And I understand the irony in saying that while having a lot of followers, but honestly,
I also wasn't trying to put you on the spot.
No.
Irony was like the first word that I could think of.
It's fair. No, I totally get it. But honestly, I was producing and sharing as much work when I had 200 followers.
I should also mention real quick that you have over 2,000 posts on your Instagram. I just checked.
Yeah.
And so yes, you're giving credence to, or that number gives credence to what you're saying. Like,
you got to make stuff.
Yeah. It's crazy to me that people who are like, they have like 25 posts and they're like, oh man, I'm not making it. It's like, you've only posted 25 times. Even if you're posting repeats every now and then, it's like, you know, get on there and make people remember that you exist, at least, if nothing else.
And some of the most successful artists that I know in real life don't use social media.
Hell yeah.
And they
love
show
it, I bet.
In museums. Yeah. Oh my God, what a relief. They sell out shows and they travel and they you know have millionaire collectors and they whatever, and they're printed in books and their work is referenced. And, you know, I mean, these are like people that are inarguably successful that don't have a lot of strangers giving them a thumbs up or a that's cool or whatever, you know. And I know that those things feel good, but they are just not they can't be your driver,
right?
You know, like you can't be doing this for that because you're going to fold. You know, if the only reason you're doing this is so that you can show it to strangers to get their approval, you're going to be sorely disappointed. It's not how people work. It's not how the Instagram algorithm works. It's just not how any of this works. So you got to do it for yourself. And when you do it for yourself, people will be interested in that, which is the second irony of that.
Totally.
But yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it feels good. Like, you know, cocaine feels good for like 20 minutes and then you need more. And then you just feel like a shell of yourself the next day.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I usually reference psychedelic drugs before Coke on this show, but hey, we're in new territory.
Well, either way.
Yeah, you don't have to make a comment on that. So, okay, I want to switch gears completely. And talk about your style. And I did some research on you. I saw you on a couple other podcasts while doing this research. Can you see the screen? Do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay, sorry. I have questions written down. Okay, yeah. I want to talk about the Illuminati first, this series here of eyeballs. How do I become a member of the Illuminati?
Do you know that people actually ask me that on the internet?
Yeah, I mean, I wore my like most Illuminati hat today.
Oh, thank you.
Shout out Free World.
Here's how you Venmo me $900.
Got it. Next step.
And then you wait. And then when you turn 75, I will send you an ingotation. But
and a
it's
ring.
all about patience. Yeah, and a ring.
And instructions for a handshake.
Yep. Gotta have faith. But start by Venmoing me $900. The series started because one of the art supply producers that I work with, called Trickel Art Supplies, makes these little triangle panels, and they're wood panels. They're awesome. I actually have, I promise this is worth it. Actually have one.
Oh, nice. Wait a second.
So
Let me.
For people on audio, I'm holding one. So anyway, it's just it's a flat wood panel in a triangle shape, and I get them from the producer I work with, and they give me a lot of them, which is great. But I like painting on unique shapes in general because I feel like it activates the canvas. Like a painting on a square, you see the painting, but a painting on a shape, you see the literal physical painting, you see the object.
Yeah.
So I kind of liked that. I painted an eyeball on one, but it was kind of a flirty looking eyeball. It's kind of a winky, sly, sexy eyeball. So I titled it like Illuminati, like it's a little naughty Illuminati, because the eyeball.
I like it.
And then it ended up just being a really kind of fun study and exercise because I get to be interesting with shapes and with color, and because it has a loosely set format, having some parameters when you do a series is nice because it forces you to be creative, but doesn't force you to reinvent the wheel in order to be creative. So, whenever I produce a new one of these, I kind of know what my parameters are, and then I can be exploratory with other stuff. So I get to explore color because I don't have to really think about the content, I can explore the shapes because I kind of know, what my compositional challenge is going to be. I've faced that challenge a couple times. So now I can focus on another area. I produce them now just for fun. They are really fun for me because I can try out a lot of different stuff, and I feel like I can make a lot of these.
They're dope. By the way, I love your style. I love something that I've been into for maybe the last year and a half or two is simplifying my shit. Like my stuff used to be, by the way, I also hate my stuff from beyond 4 years ago. Everything past 4 years ago is just, no, I'm not into it.
Yep.
But something that I've really tried to latch onto is simplifying things. And watching your videos and seeing your artwork, you're definitely just like, it seems like you're getting close to mastering simplification, especially with acrylic paint, because you literally just have to lay it on there, right? And you're using mostly flat brushes. Is that what's up? Or all? Yep. Is it all flat brush? Oh,
it's all flat brushes. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Stroke economy. So even the piece that you have up right now has a lot of little squares and rectangles on it. My newer pieces I've been doing have fewer. So like, how can you simplify into like really organized shapes without losing the image? or kind of maintaining the integrity of an image while reducing it to sort of the shapes that make it up. And that's kind of been my goal for a long time. And over time they've gotten a lot tighter. So fewer shapes, more decisive shapes, generally I think stronger, more decisive colors. So, some of them, even like these from a couple years ago, are really noisy, right? Lots and lots of shapes. But when you go to the newest ones, they are, fewer, more dynamic, which I think is more powerful. So yeah, that's been my challenge, is like, how do you use fewer marks to tell, kind of the same story of your image, right? So how do you make an image, but really make every single thing that the paintbrush does important? Yeah. So not to scatter little marks all over the piece, but how, if I'm going to use this pink color around the edges, right, I want it to be noticeable, but I don't want it, but not too much, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's just about feeling it out, like little bits at a time, little kind of growing and building your piece up, just piece by piece. And I think that that's one of the things I've gotten better at over time, is the simplification thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I noticed that, your color palettes are really, really on point too. Are you mixing most of these? I think the most saturated color in this, it looks to me like either a cad red or a pyro red. Is that correct? Or do you even remember?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So the thing with acrylic and like gouache, oil doesn't have this problem as much, but like most liquid mediums, when you mix colors, they tend to dull a lot. So I will choose a couple of dynamic colors that I will use out of the tube, and then the rest I mix. So like for this really red heavy one, that red is the pure red color. And then that orange that gets a little bit more neutral is mixed, So you can usually tell, like, if there is a like searing green or something, it's probably pretty close to being like an out of tube color. Yeah. But the neutrals and the nuanced colors and sort of the in-between colors on my pieces are all mixed. So that's kind of a complicated way to say that, that it's a balance, and that you use the fact that acrylic neutralizes a little when you mix it to sort of bridge the gap between bright dynamic colors. Like you let that super brightness kind of dip a little bit in the interest of popping out the next color. So so it depends on the piece. I do some limited palette stuff too, where I'll do an entire painting using only like 2 colors, 3 colors or something. So this is one of the things that I like to play with, that I like to try different avenues, try to do stuff differently every time.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's really nice to limit yourself to, however many colors, like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5. And to me, it takes a lot of the pressure off. And you can get, like you were saying, like so many different midtones and so many different values if you just start mixing them together. What kind of paint, what kind of medium are you using? What are your materials like? Just some technical, like more like nerdy stuff.
Sure. So I answer this question kind of loosely when people ask it on the internet, because I get asked this question a lot.
Oh yeah.
Well, the reason why I don't always answer in written form is because the answer is too long. I use a lot of different brands of paint, but the flatness that I get is not because of the brand of paint.
Right.
It's based off of how you mix and prepare your paint. So I use 3 different brands of acrylic primarily. I use Liquitex Soft Body, Holbein Matte, and Alpha Colors Alpha Acrylic.
Okay.
And between them, I pick out different ones based off of like very nuanced preferences. Different brands have different strengths. So like Holbein has especially good reds, oranges, and yellows. Liquitex has most of my workhorse colors. So white, Any kind of like green or blue neutral is really good. Liquitex just has really solid coverage for their soft body paint. And then Alpha Color is kind of different. It has the blackest black paint I've ever used. So I use Alpha Color black, but then they also have a lot of kind of specialty designer colors. So they have like some really cool, like peacock greens and like really like poster board orange kind of acrylic colors. So yeah, so it kind of depends, but it like, if I'm going to do something with like blue, I will decide which kind of blue I want. And I will either choose a Holbein, which is softer, a Liquitex, which is brighter, or an Alpha Color, which is quirkier.
Nice.
So,
yeah, I like it.
So
Very,
it's not
very
a
organized.
short answer.
No, that would suck to have to type that out like 3 or 4 times a day. I get it.
Well, I mean, everybody has their preferences, and I think after you just use materials a lot, you decide what works for you. But
right.
Those are the brands that I seem to rotate the most. Those just kind of are where I've landed. But, I mean, I have executed paintings in my same style, my same whatever, with a lot of different kinds of paint that just aren't my standard on my desk. So, you can
totally.
Almost any professional grade acrylic paint you can do this with.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you mentioned that it's more about the mixing process itself. So you don't want to have, if you're mixing 3 colors, you need to mix that shit really thoroughly. Right. And just make sure that there's not going to be, a random streak of one of the 3 colors that you mixed in the final color. And
that's part of it for sure.
Yeah.
The other part is that even if you do use a color right out of the tube, so if you want to use red or blue, exactly dump it out of the paint tube and go, you still have to mix it. You still have to squish it with your paintbrush.
On your palette or your paintbrush.
Yeah, on your palette. So you still have to stir. You have to stir acrylic paint, even if you're going to use it exactly as it is. And that is the trick to getting it flat. Like even coverage is stir it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a great tip. I did not know that. I mean, I definitely brush it out on the palette first for sure. But yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, what I always say is that it's like Greek yogurt. Like, when you open a container of yogurt, how even though there's really nothing for you to mix, if you just use it straight up, it's kind of that weird chunky whatever. But if you mix it, then it turns into like this beautiful, creamy, soft ice cream.
Yeah.
That's acrylic paint. So even though you're not mixing a color, you do have to fix its consistency. You have to correct the viscosity, and you do that by mixing it on your palette. So that's my number one acrylic trick is you have to correct the consistency of your acrylic paint before you apply it to your painting.
Right. Especially if you want it to be flat.
Yeah.
If you're going for some sort of transparent or whatever, Yeah.
Or impasto or something, you want it to be chunky, then that's great too. But if you want to paint the super hyper flat way that I do, then mixing it is everything.
Nice. Yeah. So I see here, that you have quite a bit of animals in your paintings. Do you have any pets?
I have a rabbit.
Oh, a rabbit. Nice.
Yeah. She's on the floor next to me, sleeping currently. My little rabbit, her name is Junie. She's from a rescue, and she lives in my studio and watches me paint.
Nice. Is that so? I hate this question, but I'm going to try and phrase it in a way that doesn't suck. I would say, what are your inspirations? But what's like a real life event, person, thing, animal? What do you draw from in your real life? Like, not draw as in like sketch, but draw as in like, what references are you using as you go about your days?
I follow online. I follow a lot of wildlife photographers. So I like to look at kind of unique, plants and animals and things like that just in the world. I also, nerdy answer, am always interested in just color palettes and color balances.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like things like dynamic photography that use interesting colors, because even though I'm not like repainting somebody's photograph, which is a whole other conversation to get into, I do like to see sort of what people are able to execute in terms of like, like color nuance and things. So like, shining a colored light on a thing, or removing color from something and then putting it back in. I think that sort of the power of balancing color in an image is something that's interesting to me. I share some of it also in my Instagram story. I share photos that I think have interesting color nuance. So like the other day, or maybe this morning, I don't know anymore. I shared a photograph of a white snake, and
Ooh.
the nuance of the color, it really only goes to like 50% kind of a warm gray color at its darkest, but the way that like shadows fall across it, the way that all the neutrals are presented, the way that even though it's white, it doesn't, the actual colors it's made of don't always feel fully white. I mean, these are the things that I like to look at. And those are things that kind of inspire like my paintings and the work that I do. So like, I also, I like animals and things just because it gives me something unique to paint. And, I find animal motifs to be kind of fun and interesting, and also an opportunity for me to apply some of these funky palettes. So, like if like what you have up here, it's a bee, but I have painted it almost entirely with blue and green tones on a pink background, which I don't have any idea what I was looking at for this color reference anymore, but probably, like a photo of a tree next to a car or something, like something completely irrelevant.
Sure.
But if I'll like the way that a color reflects in a certain way, like, oh, I like the way that this background color seems to reflect only on the bottom edge of the tree. So maybe when I paint this insect, I will apply that color information, reflect this color on the bottom when I do it over here, and try to kind of mash things together that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just kind of a fun forever project for me.
That's dope. Yeah, I love that mashup style where you're taking your subject matter, your form, just as it is, but then you're bringing in this whole new color palette. I mean, I guess it can be anything random that you see. Are you walking around in the world, I guess, looking for things like this?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, that's cool.
I snap photos of things on my phone, just out in the world. If I see things on the internet that I think are cool, then I'll save photos. I saved a photo of a basket of potatoes that I saw on Reddit or something, but it was like somebody had collected a bunch of like purple and yellow potatoes and put them in this thing. And it was just such a cool, it had like little sprouts of green, just very delicately placed, but the whole sense of the image was this really kind of interesting warm tone. And even though it kind of, things were falling into shadow, it was still kind of a warm shadow. And it was just, so like, this is what my phone is filled with. It's just like photos and screenshots of just random bullshit that I see. And I'm like, wow, look at this yellow next to that orange. Like that doesn't look the way I would have expected. That's awesome. And then I save it and then I try to revisit it later.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks for giving us a little inside look there. That's super cool.
Was that the answer you wanted?
Yeah. I mean, like, I think that's very helpful for people to think about just their vision in general in that way. Like, you know how musicians, sometimes you'll hear musicians say things like, sometimes I can't really enjoy music because I'm just picking it apart all the time. And I think that's kind of weird way to look at it. I think that is kind of the enjoyable thing about creation is, but you can do the same thing with what you see, and you're like, oh, that value is brighter than the one next to it. But like you were saying with the white snake, it doesn't actually get to like the darkest value, like by a long shot. Although it looks like in the context of this little picture that like that shadow is like an absolute shadow, but it's all about, context, I guess.
Yeah. And it's about like celebrating and identifying these things less than it's about like trying to pick everything apart or,
Right.
psychoanalyze everything. So for me, it's just, it's just kind of fun. Also, it's a way for me just to do things like studies that are kind of centered around learning, right? Like exploring and trying to figure something out. So, it's less about like, oh, I already have my style and my whatever. And I just, it's all figured out. I just have to do it now. It's like you never get to that point. It's always about like, you're doing this because you are trying to improve forever, right?
Absolutely.
You're just like, I do this because I'm trying to be a better painter permanently. Sure. That's just, that's just my goal. This is the moving goalpost, like you were saying. I just, I do this because it's an opportunity for me to try to understand color better, see better, make something more dynamic or more interesting or more thoughtful or whatever. So, it doesn't come from a place of like, well, I'll do this to pass the time or, well, I already know what I'm doing. I guess I'll just do one more. It's really about like trying to make something that is better or more interesting or different or, or exploring and testing and trying and things failing and whatever, So it's always interesting to me for that reason. I think just because I like learning, studying.
Yeah, I think it's a great metaphor for life in general if you want to look at art that way, and you're just kind of always in this state of becoming, and it's really, in a way, it's teaching you just how to be comfortable in that state, and like you have to re-humble yourself over and over again,
Yeah.
And I think that's healthy for human beings to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's also just to be aware that people are doing that. I think that when you see people like, like when I see artists that I admire, I always have to remind myself that they're not done either, like they didn't reach their success or their pinnacle and be like, okay, I did it. I'm good. Let's party,
Sure, yeah.
I think it's good to know that, that even the people that you see as really far along and the people that I admire, I know that those people are still pushing the envelope. They're trying 100%. To get better at the thing they do. Even when I look at someone's work and I go, holy shit, I can't believe that they're so good at this, or like, these are all so perfect. How the fuck, it's like, well, they have been focused on learning and they still are.
Absolutely. It's inspiring in and of itself, like if you can take that mindset and not be either jealous or like, woe is me, I'll never get to this level. You can look up to the artists that you love and be inspired by that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
you can get to any level, whatever a level is, you can get to it. You just have to work for it. You have to do it. Like you can't just decide, okay, I like so-and-so's art style. I'm going to do it now. And now I have it. Now I'm done.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just, the only way to get to this place is to just like actually put in the work and like, not make one thing, but make 100 things, make 1,000 things, make 10,000 things, So, that's, I think, important to just keep in your brain as a creative person, or somebody who wants to try to do the art thing or, or somebody that's curious about other people's processes. I mean, truly it's mileage.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you read The War of Art or heard that?
No.
It's a great audiobook. I don't agree 100% with everything he says in it, but this guy's name is Stephen Pressfield. And obviously it's like a play on words there's this ancient Chinese book called The Art of War. I can't remember exactly who wrote it, but so this is The War of Art. And he talks about resistance being this kind of like, I don't know, meta force that we encounter every day when trying to either get better or reach a goal or do anything really. And so how do you deal with resistance in your life? Do you feel it every day, or have you just gotten to a place where it's a little easier?
I mean, I think that like one of the main resistances that you experience is rejection from things. So like applying for things that you don't get, you know. I mean, that happens a lot. I reach out to things or people or places or whatever that I don't hear back from, or you know, you submit to a call for art, you're not chosen. So, you know, I think that there's just a natural amount of rejection that happens, and just, you know, and that I think can feel maybe like the world's resistance a little bit to the thing that you want. And,
Right.
You know, I read some quote a while ago that was like, you should aim for like 100 rejections a year or something, you know, and basically flip the script on it. So, you know, I've reinterpreted things like resistance and rejection, and I find them generally to be positive. So like, you know, if you are trying to go for things that you expect to be rejected from, it means that you're trying to push into things that are beyond you. You're trying to push to the next echelon, right? Like you're trying to go further. You're not treading water, you're trying to move forward. And even if what you're getting out of that is no, then it's like, all right, got another no. Got one for the book. Okay, keep going, you know, all right. Like I try to paint things and they come out shitty, and I'm like, well, all right, got another.
Back to the drawing board. Have you heard this story about Stephen King, how he would nail his rejection letters to like his wall in his bedroom or his office or whatever? And he says that he stacked up like, I don't know, probably close to 100 or something like that. And, you know, all it really takes is one success, if you think about it.
It's awesome.
And then you could have
it's great.
a break or just start the momentum to get you to a point, you know, where you'll be a little more comfortable in your life.
Yeah. I mean, I think it takes the edge off, you know, and it also teaches you not to zero in so hard on stuff. You know, I went through a phase where I was applying for a lot of calls for art and stuff. I think I just had a lull in other projects. And I was like, oh, you know, there's a ton of these on the internet. I was accepted to one that I was surprised by, and I was stoked. Like, even though I got, you know, 20 no's, I got like a yes I didn't expect, and I probably wouldn't have applied if I wasn't on a big streak of this and, you know, caution of the wind. And it ended up being a cool project, and that was that, you know? So, I think just there's that resistance, but I think that the bigger part is just that natural, like, you know, I don't know, like feelings about your own work, like is, you know, like there's resistance to being creative when you don't feel like you like the work that you're producing, you know, or if you feel like you don't have your direction figured out or whatever, you know, your confidence can lull. And I think that becomes like you become your own problem. I think is pretty common for artists.
People don't know how to get out of their own way a lot of times.
Yeah, it's super hard. And the thing that I have always gone back to is just back to learning. I went through a lull a couple years ago where I just, you know, I was having a hard time bringing myself to paint. So I decided, hey, you know what else I'm not very good at is figure drawing. Not super good at that. Mm-hmm. So I got a sketchbook, and every night for 45 minutes, I turned on one of those websites that'll flip images of like posed figures for you. And I just set like a 5-minute timer, and I did just figure drawing stuff, and some were crappy and a few were all right. And I kind of felt like, you know, after a couple weeks of that, I felt like I improved a little there, and I felt like I was productive, but it took my mind off the painting thing. And, you know, I don't know. It's like, I just returned to learning. It's like, okay, well, if I don't know my style and I don't know my whatever, it's like, well, okay, then I'll draw still life. Why not? Fuck it. Let's try
practicing, just keeping your hand moving.
You know, and just just, reassessing your foundational skill set is something you can do for eternity, and you can just like walk backwards. It's like, I feel like I'm all the way out here. I don't have any good creative ideas. Okay, fuck it. I'm going to try to render a wine bottle with charcoal. I don't do that. I'm not going to show anybody. This has no place on my socials. I don't care to show anyone that I'm up to this, but it's good, because then that is not wasted time. It's, it's mechanical, and you learn and you keep at it, and you might come up with something good and you might come up with something shitty. It's also good to take breaks, obviously, but
sure.
Yeah, you got to get out of your own way a little bit, and stripping away, I think, some of the complexities of art and your path and your style and your whatever.
Yeah, stop thinking so much.
Good.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Artists think a lot.
Yeah, because we're sitting still, just like doing these like small shoulder or wrist movements, and I think something I do, I mean, just to, I guess, interject a little or editorialize, is that, I mean, I think like for me personally, like exercise and moving my body is like super, super important. And, if you're painting a mural, like you kind of get that like just with the work, but otherwise you can turn into like Mr. Bad Posture over, however many years you're making art if you're not careful. And I think
that's true.
For me, it like helps my brain, helps just the whole flow process,
Yeah. Everybody's got their little breakaway thing, I mean, that's, go read a book.
Yeah.
Cover to cover. Don't draw until you finish it. I don't know. See what happens. Like, just you do have to like self-soothe a little bit though, because I do think that people, people stand in their own way, and in a pretty big way when it comes to maybe just feeling discouraged. I think that tends to be a big hang up for people. So where I go is I go back to learning. I find that to be a peaceful place for me. Some people might find, kinetic movement to be the solution. Some people might find, I don't know, taking a pottery class or going to yoga or cooking something, or, making fucking sourdough like everybody's been doing for all of 2020, 2021.
Dude,
whatever.
We're guilty of that here at my house. Yeah. We also got a puppy too, about a month into quarantine. So
that's two of the big ones.
Yeah.
What else? Have you done a lot of puzzles?
No.
Oh, okay. That seems to be a big one.
I used to rock puzzles a lot when I was a kid, I guess. But no, I did get into chess because I used to be into chess too, and it's just really fun.
And then you watched Queen's Gambit and
100%. 100%. Yeah. And I was like, hey, I used to like this game. And then I actually just deleted the app off my phone the other day because it turned into it turned into a pretty big distraction, because you can play these little 5-minute games and you're just like, I don't know, it satisfies some sort of like, human need for competition in me. And I'm like, all right, I need to win 3 and then I'll stop, or whatever it is. And that's so, like, just to be really vulnerable and tell people how my dumb monkey brain works,
Yeah.
If you ever catch yourself thinking like that, and you've got something like a painting behind you that you need to finish, like that's what resistance is. And you should just put down that shit right then and get to work or do something a little bit more productive. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
rant. Hard. I am hesitant to say this because I'm afraid people are going to get mad at me. I think that some people overdo it on the sparing themselves from responsibilities thing. Sometimes I think people give themselves a little too much slack. Like, if I don't feel like it, then I shouldn't have to. If I don't want to work, then it's unreasonable for me to need to, I think that that's abused sometimes by people. I think that like people think like there's this whole culture now where if you have discipline and a desire to kind of execute something, then that's like, oof, I'm not trying to, it's crazy for me to need to have goals or to work or whatever. Like that's capitalism in your brain. And I, like, okay, maybe a little,
no.
sure, in certain contexts, but that it doesn't mean that you have no obligation to like try to push yourself to do something sometimes. I mean, you don't have to hyperextend yourself, but I mean, how, do you get to give yourself 1,000,000 free passes to not?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's like when I see someone posting about self-care, like 4 times a week, I'm like, oh, you're not, you're
It's a
trading in.
balance.
Okay, great. Yes, for sure. For sure. By the way, I'm kind of siding with you here. It's like you trade in work for just this. I think it's an indescribable feeling when you finish a painting that you're really proud of, or you show work in a gallery. You trade your work for this kind of like thing in the future that's going to it's going to make your future self feel better, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
going to be happy then. This is called delay of gratification, right, in psychology. And otherwise, you're not delaying gratification, you're going for instant gratification. And that can be kind of vapid and hollow after a while. I mean, yes, it's good to be balanced with self-care, and you need to be sleeping. Like, that's a big one for
Absolutely.
me. Like, I finally have mastered my sleep cycles after like, you know, whatever, 18 years of just running the candle at both ends. And
I'm a very good sleeper. I
are you?
get 8 full hours.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
nice.
Yep. I sleep like 11 to 7. I'm a morning person, dreaded morning person. So, yeah. But I mean, there's this whole world of conversation, I think, that's kind of happening now, which is that like, like don't, you shouldn't, you shouldn't have aspirations, or, or you don't need to think about, ambition or something, because that's, this is just not necessary. I don't feel like I have to live that way. And I think that that's probably fine for some people, but I don't generally agree with that. So I think it's good to be ambitious. I think it's necessary to push yourself sometimes, because
Yes.
obviously I don't think you need to grind yourself into the dirt, but I do think that sometimes nobody else is going to be like, yo, you actually do kind of need to get off the couch today. I'm sorry. Like you just, you've had some days, but now it's time. Let's give it a shot, And I think that some people in the world are feeling like that is not necessary anymore. I feel like I'm seeing a lot of stuff about how like, yeah, I don't want to, therefore I shouldn't have to, like having,
Yeah.
Wanting a promotion at work, like that's crazy. No, people aren't designed to have whatever. It's not, and I don't know. I don't think so. I
Yeah.
kind of think it's good to have, goals and targets and wants that go beyond maybe, nesting and self-care, which is very important.
Yes.
But you do occasionally have to kick your own ass a little bit, nobody else is going to do it for you. And,
Right.
Guru saying that the clock ticks forward, man. Like,
Yeah.
before you know it, it's 6 months later, and maybe you would feel better if you had tried something.
Yes. 100%. And I'd like to say, as someone who used to have that mindset, that fuck that mindset, because eventually you look back and you're like, oh man, I wasted so much time just thinking that it was all good, or that success would happen eventually, and you don't really find out what you're made of until you challenge yourself, And I
Yeah.
think that's like discovering who you are is kind of like the most important thing in life, right? Like, what's the quote? The unexamined life isn't even worth living. That's so true. That's so freaking true. And I mean, fine, if I will say that, like, if you're the type of person who lives with no regrets, and you like being like just sort of happy and with complacency, like go for it. You know, maybe you can sustain this level of like satisfaction throughout your life, but I mean, you know, I don't know. I don't think
Yeah.
it's not for me. I'll just say that.
Yeah. I don't think that self-care equals forfeit all goals and plans and
Absolutely.
direction. And
Yeah.
even though you need breaks, I absolutely believe this. I also know that I am a terrible example of taking breaks. I work a shit ton.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that it's bad to have aspirations, and I don't think it's bad to occasionally, yeah, force yourself to do something that maybe you're not in the mood for. You know, I forget what it's called or what I'm going to butcher this no matter what, but, you know, they say that like sometimes you feel like people want to wait until they feel like doing something to start doing it. But sometimes you actually need to start doing it so that you feel like doing it.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. This is
You know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. Sometimes I'm like, I don't feel like painting. And then 5 minutes into it, I'm like, fuck yeah, this is awesome. You know,
Yeah,
like
right.
you're just like going for it because then I think the feeling too is that, and Stephen Pressfield in his book talks about this, it's like a little bit about conquering resistance because that's the actual hardest part is just like stepping up to the canvas or the easel or wherever you create your work and just making that first step. And then one turns into two, you know, just gets exponential. And then all of a sudden you're in this flow and it's fun and it's rewarding. And just the act itself is, I mean, I don't know. You can get so much satisfaction out of that, whether or not you're making money off of it or whether or not you've got, you know, 100,000 Instagram followers or, you know, all this other shit. Like the act in itself is what's up. And
Yep.
yeah, you'll never know that feeling until you get past that resistance, basically.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same with anything, you know, if I, you know, don't force myself to do things that are good for me, like exercise. If I don't force myself to do it, then it's not going to happen. And maybe I'm comfortable not ever doing that. But on the other hand, maybe I do need to tell myself to do things that I know are good for me creatively or physically or whatever, you know?
Right.
Yeah, you gotta like you do have to force it a little bit. And if you try and you still aren't in the mood or you can't make it happen, then that's fine. You tried, you know, but I don't think that you get to not try all the time.
Right. Definitely not all the time. And I think actually that self-care is actually doing the hard thing or doing the thing that you don't want to do because your future self will feel cared for because you conquered that resistance or you conquered that friction in your life just by doing that thing. Okay.
I agree.
So yeah, I've got a couple more questions for you if that's okay. I know
Sure.
we're a little bit past 90 minutes here. But so outside of social media, how are you navigating the art world? How are you going to art fairs? You said you applied for a lot of open calls. What else are you doing in that area?
Yeah, so I just kind of participate in different things as they pop up. At this point in my art career, I am generally invited to things like art shows and stuff. So a lot of the things I participate in now are things that, you know, the gallery will reach out to me and ask if I want to be in a show or something. Earlier in my career, that was not the case. I would reach out to galleries and be like, hey, if you have any open calls, I'd love to be on the list. You know, or if you have any group shows coming up, let me know if there's a way if I could submit or be considered. So I used to do that a lot and it worked. But yeah, now at this point, it's just kind of whatever is happening in the world. I do go to art shows. I just like doing that. It's fun to stand around and talk to art people and drink wine and look at stuff. So I do a fair amount of that when I can. Obviously, COVID kind of choked that a little bit, but I do some larger scale stuff. So some murals and things that bring me out of my studio, which is nice. It's kind of fun to work in a different format. And then I just do, I do Designer Con every year, which is like an art fair convention sort of thing. It's in Anaheim, California. So I do that, and then various miscellaneous projects with different companies, organizations, or kind of whatever, just stuff as it comes up. Benefits. I do some stuff with nonprofits. Just
so you're all over
campaigns.
the place. You're always
Yeah,
are you
I'm
always
all over the
looking out
place.
for like for new opportunities then?
Yeah, and I think that the more things you do, the more things you do. So like,
Yeah.
if I do a bunch of projects, then I meet a bunch of people, and then I get invited to do more projects, and then you meet more people, and then you get invited to do more projects. So,
Right.
it's a snowball for sure. But yeah, I mean, I think my schedule just kind of depends on like what I have agreed to,
Right.
And sometimes it's a lot of things, and sometimes I kind of catch a break and get to, do my own thing a little. But it depends. I think over the summer things seem to get a little quieter, and then towards fall and winter is when things will pick back up. So that's when a lot of projects and things that I've been kind of quietly working on will be released or announced or available. So we're moving into the busy time of year for me, for sure.
Okay, so you have all these Instagram followers. You're sponsored by is it Trikel or Trekel?
Mm-hmm. Trikel.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna remember that now. No one ever knows how to say it. Anyway,
No.
and you've made like what, maybe thousands of paintings? I don't know if you keep track or not, but like lots of paintings. So I'm just curious, how do you define success?
I mean, the cheesy answer is like happiness,
Yeah.
Success is your happiness. I don't really know. I mean, even though that is a cheesy answer, I think it's probably somewhat correct. I mean, I think getting to a place where you enjoy the thing that you're doing generally, like I don't know like how much money an artist needs to make in order to be considered successful. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I don't know that there's like hard data like that in that vein or anything, but I do feel like, feeling like you are, comfortable in your studio practice, or, feel like you have projects that you're excited about, or feel like you can pat yourself on the back for, like producing a fair amount of work, you feel accomplished. Yeah. I think that is generally where the success stuff comes from for me. And, I think that I had been feeling successful in those ways and in those areas before I had Instagram followers, or before I was working with Trikel, or before whatever. I think you get to the point where you feel like you are happy with your craft, even though it will never be perfect or totally finished. I think it's just about getting to a place where you're like, okay, this is working for me, and
Right.
if it starts to work for other people, then even better. But I don't know, finding the time. Art is such a weird personal journey for so many people, that I think it really is just like, for some people, maybe that success is, having all of the supplies that you need to sit down and make something without having to worry about it, or maybe success is you got, 100 likes on your Instagram, and maybe that was a boost for you, and that made you feel good. And then you get this wave of like, man, that is the, that's the little boost I needed today to make me feel like something's going okay. I mean, you search for those little glimmers, I think, but yeah, I mean, I think for me, I feel comfortable in my studio space. I feel pretty comfortable with my direction and my body of work. I think there's a lot of there's a lot to go. I think that there's a lot more to do, and that I'll change, that I'll redefine that success many times. But right now I feel pretty good about the stuff I'm making, and I feel, quietly, privately satisfied generally with where my body of work is headed. And that makes me feel like I'm kind of somewhere. So, I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that there's ever going to be a firm answer.
Right. Yeah. Again, the goalpost keeps moving, right?
Yeah.
Well, sweet. Thank you so much, Hannah. And it's at the Obanoth, and you'll get links to that in the description, and theobanoth.com, right?
Yep. It's the same username on everything. So Instagram, TikTok. I'm on TikTok.
Oh, snap.
YouTube. My website, all that good stuff. It's all Obanoth is how most people seem to pronounce it. But the Obanoth is correct, yes.
Okay, sweet. Well, thanks again, and thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you again for listening to another episode of RTAF Podcast. If you are interested in supporting the Patreon, that address is patreon.com/RTAF Podcast. And I want to thank all my patrons. You guys keep this engine running, and I couldn't do it without you. Go over there and check out the tiers I have available. It includes video, guest suggestions, patron-only posts, and some merchandise. Thank you again for listening. Please rate, review, subscribe. Do all those little things that help get RTAF into the consciousness of more and more people. Yeah.